Hello. This video will show you how to get the best from Calderdale Family History Society's online database, which is only available to Society members. It is in 4 sections. At the end of each section, we will remind you to make a note of the time on the video so that you can return later to carry on if you wish to take a break. The complete video will last just over 40 minutes. To use the online database index, you need to have logged on as a member from the Society website, so that is the first thing that I shall do. There are 2 ways to get onto the online database system. If you want to have a general look through and don't have anyone in particular you want to find, you can go in via the members area. You go to Members Area, CFHS Online Records, and click on the link. This is the launch page, and it also describes what the database contains. It has 3 pieces of links to 3 pieces of important information. Firstly, a full set of instructions to help you. This shows an introduction and a main summary, and general instructions, that is for functions that are common to every database in the system. And lastly, specific instructions that apply to each database. The second set of information here is a list of parishes and chapels whose BMDs we have, along with the various date ranges covered. Here are the list of parishes and the dates that are covered. The third set of information is a list of graveyards that are covered by the Monumental Instructions database. Here are all the graveyards and pieces of information about each one. We are now ready to open the database system. The important information you need is the common username and password, which are shown here in red. You need to make a note of these for the first time you enter the system. Then click on the link to open the database system. What you see next depends very much on your operating system and how you have chosen to keep usernames and passwords that you use. You will see here that my operating system initially shows the username and password that I last used on my computer, which was my CFHS login. The first time you use the system, you will need to key in the username and password that you have just noted. However, on subsequent occasions, clicking again on the username will display the previous usernames and passwords used on this system, one of which is the one you want. CFHS database 20. Click Sign In. You are now in the home page of the database system. Here you can see 11 databases and their description. They are split into 3 groups. Birth, marriage and death records. These cover parish, church and the chapel records for those in Calderdale, monumental inscriptions for the many graveyards that we have, and the BMD notices from the Halifax Guardian for nearly 100 years. School records. These comprise entries from school logs, maintained by the head of the school, and school admissions, which list details of all the children in the schools concerned. Other records. There are 2 databases, one covering the 5 censuses held before the first main one in 1841, where records still remain, and a miscellany of records covering a Greetland undertaker records, the original subscribers when the Peace Hall opened in 1776, and a set of Yorkshire Stray records. These last are for details of Yorkshire folk found outside the county where you would have least expected them. Click on any one of these and you will be taken into that database. So let's click on baptisms. Here you see the baptisms database, but before we go any further, I want to show you how to get into the databases from the transcription index. Let's say that you are interested in a particular name, but you don't quite know where to start. So let's look for Anne Aaron on the transcription index. So we can see 6 entries for Anne Aaron, but the one we're interested in is the Anne Aaron who was baptised in Halifax on the 12th of September 1830. So we click on the record details for her entry. This gives you the detail of the various ways to get the full detail, but we are interested in going directly into the database. So we go to the bottom section of this window where it says go automatically to the online database by clicking on this link. As you can see, this has taken us directly into the baptism database, bypassing the login steps and displaying the person we are interested in. An important point to note is that the window for the CFHS website is still available beside that of the database, so that you can skip between the two at any point that you like. This is the end of part 1 of this video. Please make a note of the time on this video so far, so that if you wish to take a break, you can resume at this point. So we are now going to look at the options available on the databases that are common to all databases. So let's start with baptisms. The first thing you can do is to return to the system's homepage by clicking CFHS database. This allows you to look again at the basic detail of all databases. So let's now go back to baptisms. However, if you just want to change from one database to another, click on Online Records and you will get a drop-down menu of all the other databases when you can select the one you want. So we select Burials, and that takes you to Burials, and now we go back to Baptisms. We are now going to look at the various options that are common to all the databases. The screen layout is the same for all databases in that the selection criteria are on the left-hand side and the basic details of records selected are listed on the right-hand side of the screen. Firstly, we're going to look at the vertical dots. The top item is Show Options. You can see on the selection criteria that under each box title there is a space to enter the detail that you want to find. The default for each, except dates, is equals. In other words, if you enter the surname Smith, you will only get records with Smiths as a surname. However, you may wish to change these, which you can do by changing the option type. Just click on the Show Options text, and now you can see the option below each box. It is here where you can change the options. By clicking on the downward arrow of the option you can choose, Starts With and Contains. If you select Starts With and enter Smith, you will select all records where the surname starts Smith. There you see all the Smiths. And if you go to the end, you will see Smith Sons. You can also click on Contains. And if you click for search, let's put Anne in to make it, Anne for the forename to make it a bit shorter. And there you see Shoesmith, which contains the word Smith, and Smith as well. The other option here is all conditions and any condition. The default is all conditions, so that search criteria in all the boxes have to be satisfied before a record is selected. However, if you select any condition for Daisy Smith, you will select all the records with the surname Smith and all records containing the forename Daisy. So let's just try that. And we demonstrate any condition there. We click search, and there we get people whose forenames are Daisy and also people whose forenames are Smith. The date option is always contains. So you can select all records for a given year by just entering the year, say 1800, or for a given month in the year by, say, 7/1800 for July 1800. Care needs to be taken here for January and February, as 1/1883 and 2/1883 will also display November and December records. So for these, you need to enter /1 /1883 and /2/1883. So we'll just have a look at this. And we'll put a date in. Just we'll take the options off first and put a date in just for Smith and put 1800 and do a search. And there you see, you get all the Smiths with 1800s highlighted in red. If we, however, put 7/1800 and do a search, we just get the Smiths that in July 1800. The final option on most databases is to be able to select only records from a given parish, graveyard or school. Here you can select from a drop-down list of parishes. So Anne Smith, from Coley, St John, we do a search there, and we get 4 Anne Smiths from Coley St John. The next option is to change the number of records shown on a page. This defaults to 20 here, but it can be changed to 10, 30, 50 or 100. So let's have a look and see at Anne Smith. We'll do a search for Anne Smith on 20. That's 20 records there. Change that to 10. There are just 10 records there. And you change that to 100. And in fact, there are only 72 records because that is the number of records in total for Anne Smiths. The next facility is the sort by option. Here you can sort records selected in different ways. So we'll just go back to 10. And on baptisms, you can sort by child's forename, baptism date, or parish name. Because we've selected just the forename here, and here, sorting by child's forename won't have much effect, but we can sort by date and by parish name. So if we sort by date, those now are in date order. And if we sort by parish name, those are named in parish order. The next facility is the use of the help option. you will remember that a full set of instructions is available on the Society website. However, if you want to refer to these while using the databases, click on the Help button here. Here you can see the instructions, which are slightly different from those on the website, as the detail for the database you are using comes first, here, baptisms, followed by the general instructions later. You can close the window, closing there. Before we leave this screen, let's have a look at what information you can get for any record selected. You have basic information on the row displayed, but you get full detail of that entry by clicking on the magnifying glass to the left of the entry. So let's have a look at Anne Smith from Coley, baptised on 17/8/1823. Here you can scroll down and you can see the detail. Forename, relationship, father's abode, date, trade, profession of status of the father, and so on. To keep the detail, you can download the information in the form of a PDF file by clicking on the button on the right of this window, then clicking here and then clicking PDF view. And there's the file appears at the bottom. And there is effectively the printout of all the information that you've seen. You can then close the window. And now the final option is a general search. And this is done in that box up here. First of all, we'll take out the information that we have there before. So we now have a blank selection screen, and you can look for any record which contains a word of your choice anywhere in the data. So let's see how many innkeeper details we can find. Enter innkeeper in the box, and then press enter. And here we have 866 records in surname, forename, sequence. So if we click on here, Barbara Malley, we will see that her father was an innkeeper. And if you take my word for it, all those 866 records all have an innkeeper mentioned somewhere on them. This is the end of part 2 of this video. Please make a note of the time on the video so far, so that if you wish to take a break, you can resume at this point. So let's start to look at each database in more detail, starting with baptisms. You will see that the search criteria fields on the left are empty, so that we can key anything we like into them. On the right-hand side, there is the start of the complete set of baptism data in surname, forename, date, sequence. And you can see that there are 347,916 records in all. So we're going to look for Emma Aaron. You will see that there is only one Emma Aaron, whose father is David. So you may want to see if she had any siblings. So clear her forename field and enter David into the father's forename. And here you can see there are 9 entries with Emma as number 4. But with a variation of mothers' names. But they are in child forename sequence, so sort them into date sequence. Now you can see the sequence of baptisms with Emma now at number 3. Looking at the dates, you can see that there is over 9 months between every entry, so it's likely that they are all from the same family. They were all baptised at the same church. Examining the mother's name, although they vary, they can be seen to be variations on Elizabeth. Finally, if we examine the father's occupation on each record, we will see that he is a joiner. So we've looked at those 2 records. There you are. I can assure you that all 9 records show the same. So you can see that many different conclusions can be reached by the manipulation of the data. I'm not going to go into detail on marriages or burials because the principles are exactly the same as we have seen with baptisms. We are now going to look at the graves database, which is the one that records details from parish and chapel grave books, as opposed to the burial register, which is used for BMDs. Here you can see the same setup as before, with all the grave entries listed on the right, all 8,237 of them. We'll have a look at the grave for Martha Pullman. You can see that she was buried in 1849 in North Arham, Haywood, URC, and her grave number is 10-10. You may want to see if there are any other people buried in that grave. So remove the surname and forename, and then choose the correct graveyard from the drop-down menu. And enter the grave number 10-10. Here you can see that Martha Pullman, who is also the grave owner, but there are 2 others in the grave, both Wilkinsons, buried some 25 to 40 years later. So there is clearly some connection which can now be explored. I wonder if Ellen Wilkinson was Martha Pullman's daughter. The Municipal Cemeteries database, which covers the grave books for both Stony Royd and Warley Town, can be used in the same way as we have seen. Whilst we're on the topic of graves and burials, let's now look at the Monumental Inscription database, which covers 85 different graveyards. Here we have 110,491 records to choose from, and we're going to look for James Yates. And here he is in grave G10 for Sarby Bridge, Bolton Brow. So in a similar way to the way we looked at the graves entries, let's see who else is in that grave and what it says about them. Clear the forename and surname. Find Sarby Bridge, Bolton Brow. And enter the grave number G10. And here he is with 2 other Yateses. But who are they all? If we look at the detail of the inscription, we will see how they are all related. Here is the inscription, and you'll see that James was George's father and Elizabeth was his daughter-in-law. And the same inscription appears on all 3 records. Finally, in this section, we can look at the BMD notices for the Halifax Guardian newspaper, plus those from the Halifax Courier during World War I, to see what we can find out about people from those. This time we have 3,944,955 records to choose from, but we'll look for Mary Akehead. So here we have 6 entries, but the one we're interested in is the first one, for a marriage, as we would like to see who else is mentioned in this notice. Here is the record detail for her marriage, but only for her. We can see she is the bride, but what about others, particularly her groom? If we note the date and, importantly, the event number, we can look for more information. The event number indicates which marriage entry this was on that particular newspaper issue. So I'm going to clear the surname and forename. Select the marriage event type. The event number is 1. The date is 1/12/1832. And the newspaper is the Halifax Guardian. And here we can see 2 other people whose details we can look at. We examine S. Smith. We can see that he is the groom. And we examine James Akehead. We can see that he is the father of the bride. So we found out quite a lot from this one entry. All names in the publication have been recorded in this database, but there may well be more information in the newspaper itself, such as which church the ceremony took place. And if you're really lucky, there may be an article in that week's newspaper describing the events in detail. So it can be worthwhile contacting the local studies library at Calderdale Central Library, quoting the name, date, newspaper and page number, all information on the database record, and asking for a copy of the actual notice. If you are local or think that there may be more to discover, you can go into the library yourself and ask them to search that edition to see if there are any relevant articles published. If it is an extensive search, then there may be a charge for this service. This is the end of part 3 of this video. Please make a note of the time of the video so far, so that if you wish to take a break, you can resume at this point. We can now look at the records available for schools. So let's start with school logs, which show all people's names that were recorded in the head teacher's log for the school week by week, and sometimes even day by day. And now here you can see that there are 137,994 records this time. So let's start by looking for Ellen Airy. Disappointingly, it only looks like there is one entry for her at Brighouse Girls' School on the 28th of May 1888. However, we can look and see what we know about her. There's her name and surname and forename, type of person she is, her date, why she's recorded, and a description of the entry and the school that she went to. But you may also be interested to see what else was happening at that school around that time, so you can select by date. So we find the school, Brighouse Girls. Remove those and enter 5/1888. And here you have all the entries for May 1888, which we can sort by date. So let's have a look at a couple of the entries. Mary Jane Haggis was a pupil, and she was an examination candidate, passed in 2 subjects, provisionally promoted to standard 3. And if we scroll a bit further down, we can find the head teacher, Booth, MA, and he was absent by leave of managers. Also, you can look for particular events. Let's say you're interested in the incidence of corporal punishment. You can use the search facility that we looked at earlier for innkeepers. So we clear the school. and the date, and enter Kane. Here you see there are 34 instances where the word Kane has been used. So look at Fletcher Albert. You will find he confessed to cutting his initials in a desk and got 3 strokes of the cane. And look at Simpson Frank Arthur. Half-timer, cane on hand for bad writing and dirty book. It's also, as an aside, it's interesting to note that of all 34 pupils mentioned, only 1 is a girl. If you want to delve further into some of these entries, you can request a set of page images from the Society's search coordinator at search@cfhsweb.com and quote the school, date and page number that you're interested in, all of which are shown on the detailed record. You will then get an image file of the 20 pages around the page you requested, and you can read the exact words used in the log, quite often being able to infer the state of mind of the author at the time. This database is unique in that there are 2 other sets of information that you may find useful: head teachers and school closures. For head teachers, you find the subtable in light green just above the search criteria. If you know of a head teacher, which you may have found from a previous search from the school logs, you can enter the name. So let's enter Smith. Here we have 7 Smiths, but it looks like Mary Maud was head teacher in at least 2 schools. So we'll click on Mary Maud. And you can track to some extent her career. She was a teacher in charge at the date of opening of this department and started in 1899 and finished in 1911. But in 1911, she went on to be head teacher of Bermerside Special School. The second table is school closures. Here are listed all the occasions when schools were closed. So if you think that a particular year might yield something interesting, just enter a year, remember the date selected as contains, and we'll enter 1901. And here are all the entries in date order for closures in 1901. So if we click on 6/2/1901, we will see that it was a proclamation of Edward VII at Borough Market Mayor and awarded 1-day afternoon holiday. This, of course, was after the death of Queen Victoria's. Some schools waited until the 8th to have the same celebration. And if you look down, you will find quite a few entries for 18th of February, which was Shrove Tuesday. We will now look at the other aspects of schools admissions. These give far more information about pupils than the school logs that we have just been examining. We are going to search for Louisa May Berry. We can now look at what we know about her. The database details are different from all the others. There are a possible 94 fields of information from a school admission record, and clearly we don't want to display pages and pages of blank entries. So, on school admissions, only the fields with any data in are displayed. At many schools, the entries are not just about admissions, but a whole history of information. Here, at the girls' secondary school, we can find out almost a complete history of her early life. her address, her age, her date of birth, what her father did, what her last school was, when she left, fees that she had to pay, and examinations that she took and which college she went to. Now we come to the last two databases, the first of which is pre-1841 census. There were 5 censuses conducted before the first proper national one in 1841. These are 1764, 1801, 1811, 1821 and 1831. The records were supposed to have been destroyed, but some authorities defied the rules and kept them. They are only named with head of household, and each census carries entirely different information from all the others. As there are only 8,504 records in total, we didn't think that all the development effort was worth it to display such an array of different information. Consequently, we confined ourselves to the data that is common to them all. So let's have a look for Sutcliffe. Here we have all the entries for Sutcliffe across all the censuses, so we can sort them by township. So now you can see the incidence of name by township. You can also sort on census year. Although you can look at the detail, there is no more information than is displayed on the selected screen. However, if you would like to know all the various pieces of information that were recorded for a particular household, for instance, how many adults and children were in the household, make a note of the name, year, and page number and row, and send an email to the Society Search Coordinator at search@cfhsweb.com, and she will send you the full detail for that entry. Finally, we come to the miscellaneous information, which is a miscellany of smaller sets of data. If we look on the database option, you will see the 3 different pieces of information. First of all, there is Greetland Undertaker. That is a set of records to show the people that a particular undertaker buried. Secondly, there is Peace Hall subscribers, showing a list of original subscribers to the Peace Hall when it opened in 1776. And thirdly, we have Yorkshire Strays, which were originally gleaned from a number of Yorkshire family history societies, showing people who were associated with Yorkshire, but turned up in records away from the county, hence the term stray. So let's select Sutcliffe. Each detailed entry has a description of what the entry relates to, and you may be fortunate to find any worthwhile information here, but occasionally you may strike lucky. So we look at Emily, and this is a death in 1897 who was handled by the Greetland Undertaker. Look at Emma, and Emma was a Yorkshire stray. She was found in the 1871 Shipley, Yorkshire, and she was a wife, so there's a fair bit of information here about her. And finally, we'll look at Gamwell. And Gamwell was an original subscriber to the Peace Hall, well, in 1778, in fact, here, and he had room 77 in the rustic block. We are, in fact, unsure of his surname because of the transcription. So there you have it. For those of you who are already members of Calderdale Family History Society, all you have to do is to log on with your username and password through the Society website, and away you go. For those of you yet to become members, Consider joining to get access to the multitude of items of research in Calderdale. Full details of how to join are shown under the Society's website menu bar, Members Benefits. We hope that you have found this video interesting. Tell all your friends about it and encourage them to watch it as well. Thank you for watching.